Now, your local weather with meteorologist Brian Briggs.
Well, good Saturday evening to you. Hopefully you were able to have an enjoyable day today. It wasn't fairly bad across the ArkLaMiss as far as weather's concerned, but we do have a lot to talk about in the weather department today, and I know a lot of folks know what that is, tropics. But let's kind of break down the weekend at least briefly here. Live storm tracker Doppler radar not showing any showers or thunderstorms. We did have a few isolated activity out there today, but all in all, most of us stay dry. It's generally warm too with highs in the 90s. We're already starting to see tropical storm watches and hurricane watches going up along parts of the Gulf Coast, and that does include a good chunk of Louisiana ahead of these two bad boys out in the Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic at this time frame. And now we're starting to see Laura at least getting a little bit more larger in size here. Marco a little bit disheveled, at least as it is now. So I'm going to walk you through each storm and kind of what we have to expect here and what it has to work with as it makes its way into the Gulf of Mexico. So still holding at a tropical storm strength at this hour here, and that's per the latest 10 o'clock advisory. And you can see a disorganized area of convection as it starts to kind of move its way northward here. And again, has a little bit of wind shear that it's starting to encounter as it moves its way northwest, but it's still expected to become a Cat 1 hurricane at some point because we do have favorable conditions in the Gulf. So this is at least Marco's track right now, and it has been shifted a little bit to the northeast, and that does count for more of the ArkLaMiss being under that cone. So again, we've been seeing this thing shifting all over the place the last couple days or so, and could shift again, although we're starting to get more consistency. More on that in just a second. But let's talk about Laura here, also holding at a tropical storm strength as it continues to push its way towards the Hispaniola Islands here and eventually working its way into Cuba. And this one still has a lot more questions than answers, considering that there's quite a bit more land interaction that Laura has to make in its lifetime. So as it continues to work off towards the northwest, it will eventually get into the Gulf by about the Monday time frame, and that's when we'll start to get a better idea of what exactly Laura has in store for us. So with wind shear being a caveat for Marco, land interaction is going to be a caveat for Laura, but they both have an untapped, free, uninhibited atmosphere that they're going to be going to, and that's the Gulf of Mexico. The conditions are more than ripe for development in that location. So again, details continue to unravel here as we get closer to these kind of time frames here, but generally looking like a fairly wet week for the ArkLaMiss as both of those cones actually cover most of the ArkLaMiss. So why is the potential looking good in the Gulf? Well, as mentioned, the conditions are perfect. And again, we're going to see how much that wind shear takes an effect on Marco and how much that land interaction kind of disables Laura here. But you need water temperatures of about 80 degrees, and that is more than plentiful for tropical development here. So also, this is one of our in-house Barron models that shows tropical development here, and you can see this area of highly favorable conditions moving into the Gulf of Mexico by the time we get to that time frame that both of them are going to be moving in. So again, going to be keeping an eye out on this because details, as mentioned, continue to ravel. But as far as specific details here in the ArkLaMiss, still too far out for both systems to really kind of pin down what we can see here. I want to say, at least for now, rain looks to be a good bet. Heavy rainfall at times, but questions on how much rainfall we're going to see and how long we're going to see it, and even that potential for severe weather that we typically see with tropical systems, very much up in the air at this point. So this is why we urge people to continue to stay updated with the latest forecast here and kind of start thinking about how to prepare. We've been through severe weather, we've been through tropical storms like this, so let's prepare at least kind of for a situation like that, which includes kind of creating a checklist for some essential items and making sure you have enough food and first aid and everything like that, essential items, and also research those evacuation routes as they could get busy in the event that South Louisiana could see evacuations. Again, not set in stone at this time, but generally as we head into the wet next week, look for it to be very wet, very unsettled, and details will continue to be ironed out closer to that time frame. That's going to be it for weather. More coming up after the break. You're watching NBC 10 News at 10.